Hello, thank you for taking time out. This video is on the Nakshatra of Uttara Phalguni. Uttara Phalguni falls in the sign of Leo and Virgo. It's a very interesting Nakshatra. It follows Purva Phalguni and it's directly linked to the fun and pleasure that we experience under Purva Phalguni, but in a different way. So I'll be speaking in more detail about it in the first half, particularly about its ruler, Lord Aryaman, and in the second half of the video I'm going to be focusing on how different planets behave in this nakshatra. Lord Aryaman is the keeper of our contractual obligations arising from any union of any kind, whether it's marriage. In a traditional Indian marriage, the couple is required to take 7 circles around the fire. That fire is symbolic of the presence of Lord Aryaman, who is witnessing the vows the couple are exchanging. So he's holding us accountable for our duty and responsibility in this marital bond. It can also be something as simple as a rental agreement. 2 parties agree that if there is damage, then the tenant and the owner is going to share the burden. Lord Aryaman is witness to such agreements between 2 parties and is holding us accountable. It can be more complicated than that, like a merger, which has multiple lines of contract which communicates the nature of the merger. Point being, Lord Aryaman is behind any agreement of any kind. Generally, all contracts are based on societal norms and on the basis of law, and therefore Lord Aryaman can be the upholder of law or societal norms. I find this nakshatra, Uttara Phalguni, ruled by Lord Aryaman, directly linked to the field of law. Earlier I had mentioned Uttara Phalguni too is all about fun and pleasure, but in a different way. If you look at the classification of Purva Phalguni, it belonged to the nature of Ugra, this passion for life, passion to have fun in life. Uttara Phalguni, however, has the nature of Dhruva, which translates to fixed. In one of the books I had read on the nakshatras, I found a great analogy that I'd like to share with you, which explains the difference in the natures of the 2 Phalgunis. Let's start from Magha, which is the crowning of the king or the queen. Purva Phalguni is about enjoying the kingdom, enjoying your rulership, the initial honeymoon period of anyone being crowned as a leader. Uttara Phalguni, on the other hand, is a lot about rulership. You actually get down to business. You no longer are in the honeymoon period. You're actually now responsible for making policy. You're responsible for social welfare. You're responsible that people trust other people. They can build a relationship on a personal or on a business level. Uttara Phalguni is all about that, bringing people together. In our example, in the kingdom, having the policy, the structure in place, so such agreements, such contracts can flourish. Any contract requires commitment, determination for a set period of time. 2 parties agree, we are going to go by the terms of the contract. And therefore, this nakshatra has a Dhruva classification, holding your position, holding your end of the contract. If the contract says that you are going to be with your life partner, no matter what, that's the vow we exchange with our life partner during a marriage ceremony, then we have to abide by that. We join a new company, the company asks us to sign a non-confidentiality agreement making sure secrets of the company do not leak. So we abide, as long as we are working for the company, a few years beyond that, we abide by that contract. That is Uttara Phalguni like. That determination to fulfill your side of the contract. That determination is symbolized by this Dhruva classification. Furthermore, the caste of Uttara Phalguni is different from Purva Phalguni. Purva Phalguni had the caste belonging to a Brahmin, a learned person. The person is thinking in terms of philosophies. Oh, the kingdom can become self-sufficient, we can grow our own food, we can reduce dependency, etc. That's philosophy. But now you are actually responsible for executing those policies, and therefore this nakshatra has the caste belonging to a Kshatriya, a leader in the society. It won't be any surprise to you that this nakshatra is ruled by a Kshatriya. I'm referring to Sun. This nakshatra's planetary ruler is Sun. Sun also is classified as belonging to the same caste. I'd like to give you another analogy. In Purva Phalguni, I had mentioned it's directly linked to childbirth. Lord Bhaga can bestow the good fortune on you that you are able to start a family. We all know starting a family, starting with being a father or a mother, is very different from raising the child. That is the difference between the two nakshatras. Purva Phalguni is more linked to the celebration phase of starting a family, whereas Uttara Phalguni is linked to actually raising the child. You commit to yourself, you are determined, I'm going to be saving a certain amount of money for my child's education. So you start planning for the future. This is similar to running a kingdom. You put aside money for healthcare, for example, countries do, or defense. That policy making, those decisions are Uttara Phalguni linked. So if Uttara Phalguni belongs to the caste of a Kshatriya, I'm referring to public leaders, bureaucrats, politicians, high-ranking lawyers, or even business leaders. Leadership is directly linked to Uttara Phalguni. Now, look at this classification. Dhruva and Kshatriya, they both require high level of commitment, and therefore Uttara Phalguni is all about fulfilling your word, your promise, fulfilling your duty and responsibility. That is what this nakshatra is all about. And therefore the native would also come across as someone who can handle any responsibility that may arise from any relation in one's personal or professional life. I'd like to give you some practical examples. Someone working in human resources can have Uttara Phalguni's influence. A human resource manager is connecting, firstly. Connecting people is Uttara Phalguni linked. You are connecting a human to a job opportunity. A supply chain manager is another example. The company requires top quality products, and therefore an Uttara Phalguni native can act as a mediator, requesting quotations from suppliers and arranging the supplies for the company. I'd even classify a real estate broker having a similar role to play in the society. There's a need for a house. The broker is connecting two parties, the owner and the potential tenant. A matchmaker is another great example. Two people looking for love. A matchmaker plays that role. The point I'm trying to make is the Uttara Phalguni native not only oversees the merger, oversees the agreement of two parties, it actually also acts as a bridge between two parties. So there are two roles here. One is overseeing the terms of the contract are fulfilled by two parties, like a lawyer would, and act as a bridge, like a supply chain manager connecting two companies. Uttara Phalguni, just like Purva Phalguni, belongs to the same guna of Rajasic, going after things of the world, and it has the temperament belonging to Manusha, translates to human being. So just like Purva Phalguni, this Nakshatra is also about going after things of the world. That doesn't change. But what changes is the nature and the role that's likely to be played by an Uttara Phalguni native, and I hope I have made that clear to you. So if you have your rising as Uttara Phalguni, some of the qualities associated with Lord Aryaman is likely to be seen in your character, like trying to fulfill your promise, your word, doing what you said you were going to do. So that honesty and trustworthiness and nobility and consistency will be part of your character. All sun-like qualities, I believe, are going to be seen in your character. You'll value honesty. You'll value relationships and people who are also honest. A lot would also depend on the sign it falls in the Navamsha. And here the signs can be Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius and Pisces. In Sagittarius, you can be a leader on account of your knowledge. So along with you being seen as someone very trustworthy, people would also respect you for your perspective and knowledge. If it's the sign of Capricorn, you're likely to be more consistent with your actions, more persistent. People would find you as very reliable. If the sign is Aquarius, your leadership style specifically is likely to be more unconventional and futuristic to some extent. And if it's the sign of Pisces, I think you would be seen as a leader on account of your philosophical views. A lot would depend on where Sun is placed, and if Uttara Phalguni falls in the sign of Virgo in the main chart, then where Mercury is placed. Together, this might help you understand a planet's position in Uttara Phalguni, but studying a planet in Uttara Phalguni in isolation is an excellent start, so let's do that. So if Moon is in Uttara Phalguni, you'd naturally be the kind of person who expects honesty, and you are likely to be affected if people around you are not fulfilling their word, their promise. In any contract of any kind, you can provide that healing touch. A human resources manager is an excellent example. A new candidate comes along. The candidate is given the offer, the job offer. The human resources manager still has the job to make sure the candidate accepts that offer. So the HR manager then tells you, apart from your salary, you'll also get this as a benefit. So the healing touch in agreements, you'd have the mind of a person who's very determined to fulfill what you said. Reliability is going to be one of your strongest assets. People who not only are making sure that law is upheld, but they're also trying to heal the society, like the queen looking after members of her kingdom. So your leadership goes beyond simply fulfilling your duty. You also genuinely are likely to care for the ones you are leading. The only downside I find here is that you can be so determined to fulfill your promise that you can come across as inflexible. If you have taken a stand on an issue, you'd be like, I don't care what others have to say. I have to do what I have to do. I'm specifically referring to the Dhruva nature linked to Uttara Phalguni, which can be one of the only downsides I see to this position. Sun Uttara Phalguni now is a very, very strong position, particularly if I find Uttara Phalguni falling in the sign of Leo. So all sun-like qualities would be seen in your character of nobility, honesty, consistency, the word of honor. You'll do anything to keep your word. Your leadership, the foundation of it, is going to be your consistency and persistency. For example, a region in the world was leased by a country for many hundreds of years, and then at the expiry of that long period, the country still fulfilled the terms of that long-term contract, even though generations had passed. So sometimes certain obligations have to be fulfilled regardless of what they bring to you, but for the simple sake of fulfilling what you had promised, irrespective if you were not the one who made the promise, perhaps your family did, your forefathers did. So that nobility would be seen in your character. That's the point I'd like to highlight. The sun represents government work, and in this nakshatra the person can be a public servant, particularly linked to the field of law, or can even be a bureaucrat or a politician for that matter. The only downside I see is the lack of diplomacy and the willingness to compromise, as those are not qualities linked to sun. So in a contract, a Sun Uttara Phalguni like person may want to have the upper hand. In every contract there's one party winning, isn't it? There's always certain terms of the contract more in favor of one party than the other, and a Sun Uttara Phalguni like person may not be the one willing to compromise. So the ones working in the foreign service, for example, dealing with other countries, every country have their own agenda, and I feel a Sun Uttara Phalguni like person would do very well to make sure one's interest is not compromised. Altogether, Sun Uttara Phalguni is a very, very, very strong position. Everything you associate with sun would be seen in your character. Mercury Uttara Phalguni is an interesting position, as we are now combining analytical and logical ability to relationships. The first thing that comes to mind is mergers and acquisitions. Such agreements require analytically going through what each party stands to gain. Incidentally, Mercury belongs to the caste of a merchant. So here, relations more in the business sector are likely to be part of your journey. You'd be able to understand the business implication of any contract. Mercury is known to bestow unparalleled storytelling skills on the native, and therefore you can explain the terms of the contract artistically and beautifully. It can even lead to you becoming a spokesperson. As a spokesperson, you can be responsible for conveying to the society the policy the government has framed. Like during COVID, a number of policies were created by the government, and the spokesperson then was talking directly to the media to explain the nature of the policy. A Mercury Uttara Phalguni like person can explain policies, can explain contracts very well. Mercury is known to be an excellent mediator, and I had earlier mentioned Uttara Phalguni like person can act as a bridge between two parties. So if two businesses are hurting each other, a Mercury Uttara Phalguni like person can get the two businesses to merge or agree on terms of business. That is a quality a Mercury Uttara Phalguni like person is likely to possess. Mercury is known for its flexibility. So dealing with a Mercury Uttara Phalguni like person can be very easy, unlike a Sun Uttara Phalguni like person who may want to have the upper hand. The only downside, however, is lack of reliability is linked to a Mercury-like person. So any contract which is of a very serious nature and is for a long time, a Mercury Uttara Phalguni-like person would offer less reliability. So two businesses, they do come together for a long period of time, but a Mercury Uttara Phalguni kind of a business may want to change the terms of the contract. So that reliability of Uttara Phalguni is less likely to be experienced when Mercury is here. Venus Uttara Phalguni immediately leads to the person having the ability to bring people together. Venus is all about building relations, and so is this nakshatra. So in one's personal life, the person can be seen as a mediator. If it's the sign of Virgo that Uttara Phalguni falls in, the person can be excellent at bringing parties together on issues related to money. Venus signifies all careers in finance, and Venus in this nakshatra can lead to a career in mediating between two parties on financial issues. The matchmaker example I had shared with you earlier is Venus linked. Venus Uttara Phalguni like person can also connect people in their personal lives. Venus signifies everything creative, and in this nakshatra the native might look after the details linked to a creative project, like this video I'm shooting. Right now it feels that I'm in a wonderful location and it feels doing this is very fun. That's Purva Phalguni like. But later I'll have to edit this video, and that is when I'll have to get into the details. That is Uttara Phalguni linked. In love affairs, the person would have this reliability. Not only the person is excellent at bringing others together, the person oneself can also evoke a feeling of trustworthiness. The main downside I'm seeing here is the pleasure-seeking classification of both Venus and Uttara Phalguni. So the person may not only like to fulfill one's duty, but also would like to have fun in life. The Gana of Uttara Phalguni belongs to Manusha, human beings, all the things the humans seek from life, like living in a big house or going on fancy holidays. Those pleasures are likely to remain part of your life. That's my view. Mars Uttara Phalguni is a combination, in my view, belonging to a lawyer. If the terms of the contract are not fulfilled by one of the parties, what do? You contact a lawyer to make sure or to enforce the terms of the contract. And that lawyer is a Mars Uttara Phalguni like person. Mars is also excellent at working out the details, and so lawyers who specialize in contract law are seen having this combination, in my view. The person may also raise social issues and may also be willing to fight the battle necessary to make sure those issues are solved. The native would also have a warrior-like working style. If a task has been assigned to a Mars Uttara Phalguni like person, you can depend on the person to accomplish the task, as the person is likely to take up that project as a mission. That is the mindset the native might have. If Uttara Phalguni particularly falls in the sign of Virgo, and Mars is there now in Uttara Phalguni, the person would be extremely meticulous. Mars is known for extraordinary technical skills, so the best of Mars can be seen in this nakshatra. The major downside to having Mars in Uttara Phalguni is that in the contract itself, if one is party to a contract, a Mars Uttara Phalguni like person is very likely to contest terms of the contract. So a Mars Uttara Phalguni like person may not be an easy person to get to agree. And the other downside I see having Mars in this nakshatra is the pleasure seeking aspect linked to both Mars and Uttara Phalguni. So yes, the person might be fighting battles for the society, or perhaps might be upholding law. The person may have a self-interest, in my view. When Jupiter is in Uttara Phalguni, the person would look at all relations, business or personal, philosophically. So this is where the person might look at even one's marriage as what one stands to gain on a philosophical plane. The person might see marriage as a merger of two philosophies, and whether one philosophy can complement the other. In businesses, two companies simply don't come together for the reason of money. They also come together as their philosophies unite. So a Jupiter Uttara Phalguni like person would have the vision to see that. The term I believe they use is synergy. Two countries having similar values, when they come together, when they start to do business together, there's synergy. That's the coming together of philosophies. This combination can lead to a career in judiciary specifically, as you'll have the understanding of the philosophical value of any merger of any kind. If a couple goes for divorce, the judge might say, no, you must give it time. If there's a merge of two companies, the judge would also keep in view the employees and their living whilst making a decision. Jupiter has a 20,000 feet perspective on life, and when it analyzes any mergers of any kind, it keeps into view many other aspects. And that is one of the qualities, I believe, of this planetary position. You can connect people from far and wide. Jupiter signifies to some extent foreign cultures, and in this nakshatra you can connect someone foreign to the other person. If we take the example of human resources, a Jupiter Uttara Phalguni like person would explain to you what you stand to learn from this opportunity. Like for 2 years you'll be working, then the third year there might be an opportunity for you to travel. So a Jupiter Uttara Phalguni like person is explaining to you the true extent of the value of this union, you accepting the job offer, for example. I don't see a major downside to this position, as Jupiter firstly has an excellent relationship with Sun, which is the sign and the nakshatra ruler, and Jupiter also shares a friendly relation with Mercury should Uttara Phalguni fall in Virgo. The Rajasic side of this nakshatra is likely to be better controlled. That's my view. Saturn Uttara Phalguni like person would have the patience and the resilience to firstly draft the terms of the contract and then fulfill the terms of the contract till its expiry. I would classify Saturn Uttara Phalguni like person to be one of the most dependable persons you'll come across. Saturn and the nakshatra ruler Sun both signify government work, so that might also be your future. Saturn signifies our tradition and related values. So here you may also become a custodian for societal norms. Now, it was always like this, that the child was accompanied by the parent every time the child had to go to the cinema, for example. So you then try to uphold that way of living. The greatest quality of the native is going to be the duty boundedness the person is going to feel to any promise the person has made to someone. And the native is also likely to keep in view the interest of the opposite party. Saturn is known to be a planet signifying or symbolic of empathy, and the Rajasic, the worldly side of this nakshatra, in my view, is going to be very controlled. This combination truly signifies public service, whether it's working for the government or working independently and raising a social concern. I find this to be a strong position despite Sun and Saturn having a difficult relationship. I think Sun and Saturn find a common ground in this nakshatra. That's my view. Rahu Uttara Phalguni like person can delude oneself into thinking, I might gain something from a contact with that person or with that company. This is very common in the modern world, isn't it? We go to business conferences or on LinkedIn, we get in touch with people thinking, oh, somewhere down the line this contact might be helpful in my progress in life, perhaps. It might be, but a Rahu Uttara Phalguni like person might delude oneself into thinking there's actually something to be gained, actually something tangible to be gained. Rahu signifies everything foreign, and therefore the person can actually become an expert in this position to deal with foreigners, or the person's nature of work might be such that the person gets in regular contact with foreigners. The major downside to this would be the pleasure-seeking aspect to Uttara Phalguni and to Rahu. Rahu here might highlight that much more than any other planet's position in this nakshatra, and therefore entering into any business relationship can be driven by a self-interest. Rahu Uttara Phalguni can lead to you becoming less reliable than other planets in this nakshatra in a relationship of any kind. Therefore, you must closely examine the terms of the relationship, whether it's personal or professional, and make sure you have the capacity and the willingness to fulfill the terms of the contract, particularly if you are dealing with the government. Rahu does not share a good relationship with Sun, so this can be a recipe, Rahu and Uttara Phalguni, of you violating a contract you might have signed with the government, particularly under Rahu's dasha. With Ketu in Uttara Phalguni, the person can be responsible for business dealings or dealings on behalf of the government done secretly, like an official is sent to a foreign country and a deal is struck which the media never comes to know about. So Ketu Uttara Phalguni can be behind secret dealings of any kind. I'm not trying to highlight the secrecy. I'm trying to highlight the confidentiality of certain deals that take place, which a Ketu Uttara Phalguni like person can maintain. Ketu is known to possess piercing logic, and Ketu is also known to be excellent at planning strategically, and therefore Ketu Uttara Phalguni like person can be behind contracts which require such skills. Given Ketu's difficult relationship with Sun which is the nakshatra and the sign ruler, contracts signed with the government, dealing with the government with this position can be difficult, particularly if you are going through Ketu's dasha. It can be as simple as you missing on filing your income tax under Ketu's dasha, and now the government is asking you to pay a penalty, or even worse. So relationship with government authorities can become difficult with this position. Altogether, I find Ketu Uttara Phalguni to be a better position than Rahu in Uttara Phalguni. That's my view. Hello, thank you for watching this video till the very end. If you have any questions, please post a comment, and if you'd like to stay in touch, please subscribe to this channel. Thanks again for watching. Bye for now.